previous panel discussion was like really, I was intrigued by the number of possibilities, right? And 11 people, I think there were 11 people in the panel, 11 different use cases, and out of those 11, maybe so many multiples would be there. And I was thinking yesterday, we had a problem, and this is not yesterday that we had a problem. From more than a month, we were getting from my email, official email, if I would send an email to somebody, it would bounce back. And this would invariably happen when there is some URL in my email body. And so this was going on for a month. I'm getting bounce back emails. I raised a ticket to our support team, and for 1 month they have been working, trying to figure out what is the problem. And I got frustrated yesterday. And what I did was co-pilot. I just articulated the problem very well, punched in the question, and here I get the response. 3 things to be done. And there was one SPF, DMARC, and etc. configuration to be updated on my DNS records. So a CNAME, a text record, and one more parameter I'm not able to recollect. But that's all that was to be updated. And the moment we updated, pushed the update, in the next 5 minutes my colleague sent an email and it was received. So I'm just giving you one use case which I found out, and I've lost my tech touch, right? But I was able to solve a tech problem. So AI will have multiple use cases, and here is a story which I'm going to tell you about how we have used AI. And this is a 10-year long journey, almost 10 years, right? Almost 10 years. We started this in 2015 as a concept, and it has transformed your journey at the airport. And this is just the beginning, right? And there are umpteen number of possibilities that are there, and I'll maybe ignite the spark in your minds. We are going to open up our sandbox environment for people to innovate on top of Digi Yatra credentials. So yeah, I'll quickly get on to it. I'm told that I've got additional 5 minutes, so I'll have 15 minutes, and I'm like the guy between your coffee break, or coffee, right? Coffee break, the award ceremony, and maybe your weekend party, right? So sorry, apologies, you'll have to add 15 minutes. So I'll start with the vision, what we were trying to basically achieve with Digi Yatra, right? How it has changed travel, and what is it that it does to your travel. Perhaps you all experience it, so I'm not perhaps required to say that. But yes, there are a few things which I would certainly want you to take home and maybe spread the word, right? I'll come to that, which is on data privacy and how we have created a completely privacy preserving ecosystem. Some key metrics on where we stand in terms of adoption levels, and then I'll talk about the future. So when we started thinking of Digi Yatra, it was I was at Bangalore International Airport at that time. I was in the IT team, and we were asked one fine day that write a story about the new passenger journey that you would want to see in the new terminal. And this was all on paper, right? And we were asked to write stories. This was a 3-day workshop, and I wrote this story saying that passenger walks through all the touch points and nobody stops him or her. Passenger reaches the boarding gate, boards the flight. And then how does that happen? So we said it is using the single token of face, and with the face as the single token, passenger goes through and reaches the aircraft. And of course it was easier to write, but then difficult to execute. So we took almost a year and a half to work with various biometric providers to see how we can stitch this whole story together. And then you have got various functions to address, right? And you would have all realized, by this time, that when you are traveling at an airport, the first person who greets you is the CISF, security. And they have a function, right? I mean, it's a noble function. They are worried about your security, and they are there to provide a safe, secure environment to you to fly. They have a function. They have been given an SOP, so they do all their checks. And for them, what is paramount is that function. And they're not concerned about the issues that you will go through in getting through that process, right? And you may be in a hurry because you have reached the airport late. Your flight is already started boarding, and you want to reach the boarding gate. But they're not bothered about that. They want that function, and this obviously their function is most important, right? And then you go to the airline check-in counter. There they have another function, which is again they have to check your identity card, they have to check boarding pass detail, etc., etc. Similarly, again you reach the handbag security screening, is the same thing. Finally, you reach the boarding gate, and there also sometimes airline staff will ask you, show your identity card. So all this, right? Everyone thinking of their own function, but nobody thinking of the poor customer. And this is where we changed the whole thing. We said, okay, customer in the core end center, what does customer want, what does customer need, and everyone provides that. And I'm not saying dilute security, I'm not saying dilute your checks, I'm saying that make them more efficient, right? And this is what we sort of thought through, and in the end, a walk in the park experience is what I feel you generally get, right? And sometimes there are issues we are just 1 year, 1.5 year old, right, in this whole journey. And going forward, you will see that it is actually going to be like just walk through every checkpoint, reach boarding gate in a happy state of mind, maybe have that cup of coffee, maybe think about that next meeting that you're going to speak about, right? Rather than have that argument, altercation with either the CISF or the airline staff. So this is what we sort of are able to deliver. And there is one term, health risk free. And people were asking me, how does this Digi Yatra process become health risk free? And this was during the pandemic that I was giving some online, in one of the online conferences. I was thinking that this is a process where the passenger does not need to give a document to anyone, nobody needs to check anything manually. And obviously when, suppose you give your ticket to the CISF to check the ticket, give the identity card, maybe you have an infection and you pass it on to them, or they have an infection, when they give the document back to you, it comes to you. So I said, okay, it is completely health risk free because you don't touch any equipment, you just walk through, right? So it's a health risk free process as well. And today we do only domestic travel. Going forward, it will be enabled for international travel as well. Sharing of even your vaccination records, for example. We had enabled it in the initial days. Now, of course, there is no need. Hopefully, there is no further need for that. So that's, I think, in short, what we started to achieve, right, or thought of achieving. We'll just move forward. And this is one slide, which is the big message that I want you to take home. So you look at this 5 million number here. Over there, you see a 28 million number. And then around 21 months is what we are all, right? 5 million is our user base. 28 million times people have used Digi Yatra in these 21 months. And the point is, we don't know you. We don't know any one of you by your name. We do not have any way that this information is available with us. From all this 21 months with all these 5 million user base, because we are a completely privacy by design ecosystem. We do not store any of your credentials. We only process the credentials and give it back to you, right? There is nothing which is stored in any central database. So I think that is one of the biggest messages. Many people do not know this, and the concept I'll explain briefly in the next few slides. It's called a self-sovereign identity, meaning that you yourself are in charge of your identity and everything is in your control. So you basically take charge of your data, and thereby it's a decentralized sort of a ecosystem where I can come to you, and if you want to validate my name, I can just share my credential and you can validate my name. That's it. And it's only the transaction, right, that is happening. There is no data which actually rests with the person to whom I have given this data, right? So that's I think I spoke about this one, which is that when we thought about Digi Yatra and how it has impacted travel, the convenience, the factor of convenience that it brings across the table, the amount of security, right, that is there, because nobody can now forge any identity document or travel document. All that is out of the way because everything is digitally sort of validated. The whole process is faster. So you look at airport entry gate, 20 seconds generally if you give the ticket and the identity card for the CISF to check and everything, right? And it's a difficult check that they do. Name on the ticket, name on the identity card, they match. Face on the identity card and you were a face. Flight from to, date of travel, all these things they are matching all manually, and everything, both of these documents could be a forged fake document as well, and they can't make out. So all that is sort of gone away. It's much faster as well. So this was something which again also adds to the sustainability aspect, right? The whole initiative enables airports to become much more efficient. So an airport which today can say take a capacity of 30 million can tomorrow with Digi Yatra actually churn out or process 40 million passengers without adding a single equipment more or without building a bigger building. So from that perspective, leaving a lesser carbon footprint is what Digi Yatra enables. And this is where I would like to explain to you, right? And maybe I'll just move closer to this. So here is where the passenger is, core in the center. Passenger has a wallet, which is your Digi Yatra app. In the wallet are various credentials. So you have your identity credentials, your boarding pass, and going forward many other credentials that could be possible. Digi Yatra Central Ecosystem is only an issuer of the credentials. It just issues credentials to the passenger. And we have the Government of India identity databases. So for example, we are integrated with DigiLocker, with Aadhaar, and also with Passport, right? We are now getting integrations done directly with the passport. So it does not mean I need to integrate to a database, but it's only just the passport that I can read. So all these government databases, and then we validate that and issue credentials, and it is the passenger who actually shares credentials to the verifiers. The verifiers are airports who want to verify you for your travel document, identity, etc. So that's the empowerment that we are giving to the passengers, right? And what we use is W3C standards. So W3C standards is a global standard. It's an upcoming standard. We use self-sovereign identity, which is the concept, and there are verifiable credentials, which are nothing but your identity data in a soft form, right? And decentralized identifiers are the way the communication happens between the three stakeholders, which is Digi Yatra Central Ecosystem, the passengers, and the verifiers. We use Hyperledger Aries, and we went with Hyperledger because of the credibility that Hyperledger has. It's part of the Linux Foundation itself, and everything is encrypted with public-private key pairs. So from that perspective, it is secure. We use that blockchain distributed ledger, which is the Hyperledger Aries, as the layer of trust. And a little bit of detail from how we are trying to make this happen. It's privacy by design ecosystem, and the holder is the one in the core and center. Holder gets the credentials from the issuer. Holder is able to share the credentials to the verifier, and everything is maintained at the verifiable data registry, but no personally identifiable information in the verifiable data registry. What we do is, for every credential that is issued, there is a hash value or a proof value which is generated, and that proof value is stored here. So whenever a verifier receives any credential, we check whether the proof value matches. The proof value, you cannot make out who it is just a value generated from the credential itself, from that string. So that way, no personally identifiable information on the blockchain, but we are still able to validate everyone whether data has been tampered or not. And then with passengers, what we are doing is passengers now are in control of their data. They know with whom they are sharing. They also know when it is being shared. They also know what is being shared with the airports, right? And so boarding pass any which ways we would share even today also, otherwise without Digi Yatra. The only other data point that we take is the face, and that is the selfie face. We do not also use the Digi Yatra, the Aadhaar face. We use only the selfie face. So from that perspective, this is a privacy by design ecosystem. We want to make it even more robust. So we say once you have shared your credentials to the airport, 24 hours after or within the departure of your flight, your data gets purged by the airport. While it's a systemic process, we would want to communicate back to you that, hey, you are traveling from Bangalore and now your data has been purged by the Bangalore airport. So that is something which we are going to add as a future feature. Consent, there were a lot of aspects about consent that was spoken about, and if you will see every aspect, right from credential creation to sharing of the credentials, we do take consent, and this is something which is fundamentally a requirement that we have. Coming to the app metrics itself, we have crossed 5 million. This is, I think, 20th data, so 2 days back. And we have already crossed Android, we have crossed 3 million, and Apple, we have crossed 2 million. Moving on, about the future, right? And this is something where perhaps you can also sort of start to contribute. We'll be setting up this ecosystem for people to test various use cases, a sandbox environment where you can actually, depending upon your industry, use the Digi Yatra credentials. So we set out our vision thinking that we want to be the travel stack of India. So meaning that complete travel that you are doing, right, from your home to destination and back, including the stay at the hotel, for example, a visit to a place, for example, wherever there was a need for identity validation, we would want Digi Yatra credentials to be usable. And the reason for that is, so think about it, you landed at a particular airport, you landed at Delhi, for example, and you checked into a hotel. As soon as you go there, they will ask your booking details, and then they will say, I need your identity card. And what would you give? Either you would be the tech-savvy guy who has the DigiLocker Aadhaar card, you will show the card, and what they will do is they will take a photo of that. And now this is all unencrypted data that somebody has taken photo on their phone. How safe is that, right? So for us, I think it is important to just ensure that the whole validation happens in a privacy-preserving manner, and this is what we want to give in a very short time, right? This whole validation using a manual ID will take more than at least 2-3 minutes, whereas our validation can happen in 5 seconds. Going forward, there was also in the previous panel discussion AI-powered chatbot, for example, in native language. So that's something which we have already embarked on. We are just writing the requirements, and we will be very soon doing that as well. So that's, I think, in short, one point which I missed was aligned with IATA 1ID. So IATA 1ID is setting up the standards for international seamless travel. And that's our next step of journey, where e-passport based enrollment happens on Digi Yatra, and then you are flying, say, from Bengaluru to Frankfurt. You go through the seamless process, including border control at Bengaluru using Digi Yatra, and then you land at Frankfurt. You would have already shared your credentials to Frankfurt Airport, and there, I'm sure you must have seen, right, many of those e-gates, which are for EU citizens only. That's because they use the electronic passport and go through. They are just lying always. Every time that I have gone, I'll see 1 or 2 people who are using it, because it is not used so much. And here is a long queue, 2 hours queue for Indians and other Asians, right? So all that can go away. You can also go through the automated border control in a seamless manner without having to wait for 2 hours for immigration. So yeah, so that's the future. With that, I come to the end of my slide. Thank you.